Okay. Welcome to our YouTube channel. My name is Tano. And today our discussion is about the separation of state from religion. Okay, I want us to start with the defining, because our topic today is the separation of church and the state in Kenya. We are focusing with the Kenya. So, and I want first of all to understand what is secularism before we understand how the secularism help us to separate or help to separate the church from the religion. So I want us to define what is secularism, and let's hear from the audience. What is secularism? Because every time we hear the word secularism or we mention the word secularism, so Morioki?
Thanks. Maybe I'll say freedom from religion. Free from religion.
Freedom from religion.
Yeah.
Okay. Someone else? According to Morioki, is freedom from religion.
Stano, can you see my hand?
Oh, yes, go ahead, Dorokas.
Okay. Secularism comes from the word secular. Secular is non-religious. I remember when I was growing up, it was almost perceived to be a dirty word. Secular music. You are listening to secular music. You are watching secular things, secular movies, things that are of the world. I think at that time, they had pedestalized all that is religious, and anything non-religious was perceived to be from the enemy. It was of the devil. But if we free ourselves from that baggage, we just realize that it just means non-religious. Now, when we add the ism to secular, it is a principle in which government maintains neutrality towards religion or spiritual matters. This means that government does not promote or suppress any form of religion or spiritual belief. It's just neutral in that respect. I think I'll explain the implications of that in the next contribution. I believe Stano had alluded to us getting to that later, but on a general level, that is secularism. And it is motivated by the realization that when politics mixes with religion, it becomes an unholy alliance. It creates all sorts of problems for government and for religion itself. Thank you.
That is a nice response, Do we have another person with a different perspective or the same idea about we are defining the word secularism? If no, we can now go to how do secularism help us. How does the secularism protect us from the church, the church and the government, or it protect the government from the church? Secularism. Yes, Morioki?
Thanks. I think you're free to do what you want as long as you hurt nobody. As long as nobody is getting hurt, you're free to do what you want with no serious restrictions.
So secularism gives us freedom to do whatever we want as long as we are not harming each other.
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. Good response, Morioki. Let's hear from Chirwe.
Yes, I think benefits of secularism is it means there's no state religion, so you don't have to follow any particular religion. You're free to choose, even if that means being atheist or agnostic or spiritual. And it also means that your tax dollars are not meant to be spent on any religious affairs. That's not really the case in Kenya because there's supposed to be separation of church and state. But the president, William Ruto, built a church in the State House. Either he was going to build it or he's already built it. So ideally, that should not happen in a country where the constitution says there should be separation of church and state.
Okay, thank you. Dorocas, it's your turn.
Okay. I think by the next contribution, I will have settled and I'll turn on my video. But for now, you have to be content with just my voice. How does it protect the church and government? By the way, we have to point out here that the church is a representative of religion in general. We've picked church because that is what is relevant in Kenya. But if we were in the Middle East, then we would have said separation of the mosque and state. It's just a stand-in for any religious institution or the predominant religious institution. So it protects both entities. It is good for both. It is good for religion because, Christians would think at face value that secularism is terrible. It is going away from religion, but it is actually protective of them because, one, they get to express themselves whichever way they like. Religion, by its very nature, is multivariable. There are numerous denominations that exist in the Christian faith alone. And then the same is replicated across most of the other major faiths. They have many denominations, they have many interpretations of their faith, and government is not allowed to interfere with their expression of their faith. Government cannot say, oh, in Kenya we are only Catholics, or in Kenya we are only Anglicans. Any other person is forbidden from congregating or expressing themselves. Okay, so they are allowed to pick whichever denomination and be themselves, which is great. Additionally, they are free to criticize the government when the government errors. If you look at Kenya's history, we have a myriad of clergymen and women, but mostly men, because religion is dominated by men, or the leadership is dominated by men. We have many clergymen that spoke truth to power. Ndigi Mwananzeki and several other clergy from back in the day were bold enough to speak against President Moi or President Kenyatta when they were ruling the country. So you can become, I think they are called the fifth estate, you can become a check on the government as clergy, as religious institutions. And you're free to do that. You're not compromised when you have a secular system in place. Additionally, secularism is good for the church because it helps them, because it allows them to run their affairs as they see fit. This means that the government cannot interfere in how they choose their leaders, how they appoint them, whether the criteria that they use, and stuff like that. The government is not allowed to interfere. It is all in their hands. So that is quite good for them. It protects them from that. And there's no persecution. You're not arrested. You are not sentenced and sometimes even killed because of your faith. So that is definitely a welcome thing for religion. Now, for government, secularism is also great because it allows government to make policies based on rationality, sound reason and universal human rights instead of religious dogma. Because unfortunately, there are many religious beliefs that don't have backing in modern life, that are not logical or rational, but they're just believed because that's what was written in their holy texts millennia ago. Now, when you live in a secular state or you abide by those principles, then you as government are not shackled to religious dogma. You can go about your business without having to worry about it. So that's great. Another thing is government is defined by the people. It can be democratic. I'm not saying that that's always the case, but for the most part, government can be democratic if it is in a secular country. But if the opposite is true, if it is in a theocracy, then it is susceptible to religious tyranny. You can only elect someone, you can only appoint, you don't even elect, you can only appoint someone based on their religious credentials, as the case is with a place like Iran or Saudi Arabia. So those places, or many Christian nations back in the day, in the 16th century and all those other times, it becomes very constraining for government because they have to use rules that are defined by the church. So it's good for both government and for religion if both of them are rational. But if they are partisan, then they will perceive it as problematic for them. But it is good for the people, for the general public, especially in places where you have a multitude of beliefs. It's not a monolithic country. And that is actually the case now. In modern times, it's very difficult to find a country where 100% of the population belongs to one faith and one denomination. That's almost impossible. So we need a principle, a form of government that mirrors that diversity. So with those many words, I'll end it there, but I wanted to toss a question to the audience. In as much as I've said, secularism is beneficial to the church because they are free to appoint leaders as they so wish. What about cases like the Shakahola massacre and the reforms that were being proposed? There's a committee that was formed and they proposed certain reforms. I can't quite recall whether the reforms passed or not. Maybe ex-pastor, you will correct me on that, whether they have been they've been signed by the president and whether legislators agreed to those reforms. But there was a committee that was formed in response to the Shakahola cult deaths. And one of their recommendations was that we create standards for clergymen, that you don't just allow anybody to become a pastor, that they have to go to theology school and they have to have some form of certification. That way we are able to curtail some of these charlatans that take advantage of the vulnerable. So in that respect, when the government passes such a law where it requires clergymen to undergo certain to undergo certain criteria in order to become leaders, church leaders, is that interfering with secularism? What do you think? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dorcas. We are discussing the impact of secularism or how it helps to separate the church from the state and the importance. So anyone who have the view or opinion about it can raise his or her hand. Okay. Are you okay?
Yeah, maybe just referring to Dorcas's question, now, even if they do what they said they'll do, how do you police a cult? How do you police what somebody is doing with their followers? So it's tricky because you don't know. He could be learned about he'll go to school, but still he can still trick his followers. So it's tricky. Thanks.
Okay, that is good. And also for me, I can just say it's the work of the government to protect his fellow citizen or her fellow citizen by making the rules that will reduce the harm. Because Shakahola, it was a mess. Many people died, and the government, it's mandate of government to protect the life and even to protect people from harming each other. That is why they try to implement. But to come up with a rule, according to that committee, pastor was the one who was threatened. But that is ironic because they are trying to implement something that is that cannot be implemented, because according to the Bible, I don't see anywhere Mackenzie violated the Bible. He normally follow the Bible. So, and to say it's a mandatory for pastor to go for a theological school, for me also, I don't see that will really help, because each school does not train according to the Bible, but it train according to its denomination. Each denomination have different teaching. And that is why we find this church or this denomination is totally against the other denomination in terms of teaching. That means the theology does not help at all, because they only refer to a certain verses to form their own denomination. The other school, they rely on a certain verse, cherry picking some certain verses, and the other they try to twist, which they twist different from the other, and they pick different verses from the other. So theological school, I don't see they can help, because even we have so many people with a PhD and they have no discipline. They misbehave. Even politicians, some people have the masters, but they still misbehave. So we needed to come up with a way that will be able to reduce any harm in the society. So we are still discussing how the secularism help us to separate the religion from the state or from the government. Anyone with something to say? So for me, I can say the secularism guarantee us the freedom of conscience. It ensures the individual can practice any religion they choose or no religion. If you are atheist or agnostic or traditionalist, so you can practice whatever you choose. They help to reduce the coercion, so you cannot be persuaded, you cannot be persecuted, and you cannot be forced to do something. And in this case, I can also say secularism can also help the religious school not to coerce students by forcing them to believe whatever the religion they have. For example, like we talk about there is a school that was saying you must be a Christian for you to attend in that school. That is discrimination. And according to our state, which is secular, according to our constitution, you should not discriminate somebody because of the race or because of the religion. So saying you are religious, the school is a religious, is sponsored by religious, so you must force the student to be a religious. That is against the constitution of Kenya. So the secularism will help such scenario. So if no one to hand on that, we can go to the next by asking, how do secularism help to make a law that will not harm people or will help to reduce harm? Or what is the difference between the law made by secularism versus the law made by the religious state? Yes, Morioki?
Thanks. I think secularism is based on just common sense, just based on right and wrong, no belief system, not believing in a god or a devil, just using your common sense to do right and wrong. So thanks.
So in that case, right and wrong, it varies from different people, because what you think is right will be wrong to another person.
But some things obviously, like we say, stealing is wrong, rape is wrong. Some things are obvious.
But eating a pig is wrong, according to other people.
Let's figure out.
There's no, I'm hearing noise somewhere.
Excuse
There's
me,
noise.
Stephen. Stephen, please mute.
Sorry. Okay.
Well, Stan, you're saying eating a pig is wrong.
Yeah, according to some people.
Like me.
So yeah, so when they come to make a law, no, I'm not just talking about vegetarian. I'm also talking about the other people who are not vegetarian.
Okay.
And also you can be included if they come to eating the goat, the beef. So we need to know what is right and wrong.
And so I'm saying some things are universal, like stealing, raping, murder. That's universal. You know, eating a pig can be a debate. Like any rape,
so
murder, it's just universal. Yeah.
In short, we can define it as making a law that will prevent people from harming each other.
Yes, that's it. Yes.
Because
and
eating a pig does not harm another person.
Even animals, even animals. I hear in the law, if you hit a dog, someone's dog, you can be in trouble. Even a cat. I was told that recently. You can be in trouble for killing somebody's dog.
Okay. Fine. Even eating a cow, stealing a cow to eat, somebody is also harm. So let's see.
Hi, Stano. I think your network is wavering a bit. Hello, everybody. Yeah, I was listening in and out. But in my opinion, laws should be set by secular people. Actually, it was just ironic, totally ironical that the commission that was to look into Shakahola was religious people. Police policing themselves. Hello. Yeah, that's just something to consider. But anyway, I'll diverge from that one. And this is why laws should be made by secular systems or secular people, because number one, religion, particularly Abrahamic religions. Oh, you've never met selfishness. Imagine if those are the people to make laws. People who will be celebrating when their family members are in hell and they are in heaven. I mean, imagine people like those making laws, because they do not even understand the feelings, or rather the effect of something on other people. They wouldn't want that shoe to go into their foot. Therefore, you don't want people like those making the laws. Therefore, somebody else needs to make laws that will protect us from those people and also protect those same people, because we understand that they should also be protected by the laws. And that is why I think that laws should be secular, or rather they should be made by secular people, and religious people shouldn't be nowhere near that to bring useless arguments about their special place in a situation. So yes, they should be secular to protect all of us and to protect religious people too, because these religious people do not imagine another religion. Maybe they can imagine when the person from their religion is in the seat of power making the rules, but they will never imagine another religion being in that and oppressing them. That is why it should be all secular. Thank you.
Yeah, that is good. It's great. Let's hear from Dorcas.
Okay, let me try and turn on my video. Yeah, I think it's on. So, how would laws be different if secularism were the principle being applied? That's the question, right?
I'm asking,
Mhm.
what is the difference from a secular state and a religious state in terms of making a law?
Okay.
Which one is better, and how do you tell the difference?
Okay. Number one, the first thing that you will notice in a secular state, which is what we have, by the way, Kenya, according to Article 8 of our Constitution, says that we are a secular state. We do not have a state religion. Kenya shall not have a state religion. That is what is stated in Article 8. And then in Article 32, sub-Article 8, it states that the state cannot compel somebody to believe a certain religion or a certain belief. It cannot compel you. You have the freedom to choose. So in Kenya, secularism is what governs our government. Now, if you compare our country to some other nation that is religious in nature, where religion and government have married, you find that the first thing is there's no freedom of association or belief. There's no freedom. So a religious country might have rules like apostasy or blasphemy laws, where it is illegal for you to criticize any religious figure from the government religion. Yeah, usually we see that with Islam, that if you say anything negative or critical towards Prophet Muhammad, then you will you'll get arrested. And there are rules around things like depicting those religious figures or just painting them in a negative light. You get arrested for it. Another thing is apostasy laws. You are not allowed to leave the religion because if you do, again, you will get arrested, you'll do time, and some people receive even death sentences for becoming apostates. But in secular countries, that is not the case. You are free to jump from one faith to another without consequence, at least legal consequence.
On that, do we have a Christian state? Because you have illustrated the Islamic state.
I think maybe the papal state, which is Rome, where the Pope is. I think it's Rome. I don't know which one. Yeah, that one. There are some countries that call themselves Christian countries, but on the ground, they are secular in nature. So I think for now, I'm hard pressed to find. Maybe somebody else can quickly search and confirm. But I think for the most part, Islam is the one that is guilty of these infractions of religious tyranny. So I was still explaining the difference between a secular state and a religious one. There's no freedom in the religious country to move from one faith to another, even preaching a faith other than the state sanctioned faith. If you are if it was a Christian nation and then you're there preaching about Islam, or if it's a Muslim country, and then you are preaching about Christianity, you could get arrested for it. But in a secular state, that doesn't work. So that's one component. Then another difference is in terms of the neutrality of the laws, like taxation laws. In a secular state, everybody is supposed to pay taxes, whether you are religious or not. You're not tax exempt. You're supposed to give to Caesar what is Caesar's, to quote a religious figure. But in a religious country, any religious institution from that faith is given special treatment. So that's another difference. Even other laws that pertain to things like noise pollution, you find that in a secular state, those laws are enforced, but in a religious country, they are exempt. Like you can make noise in a residential area, but as long as you belong to that state-sanctioned religion, you are exempt from law enforcement. Yeah. But then they target the non-religious businesses or institutions that break noise pollution laws. So there's that aspect. And then another final difference would be in terms of things like religious education, when it starts, whether it is compulsory, and you find that in a religious country that begins at an early age, but in a secular state, ideally, in Kenya, that is not the case, but ideally it's supposed to be a bit more universal, like you're supposed to accommodate different beliefs for the students that are coming to your school. So yeah, let me leave it there. There are a few other things that could differentiate those two, but they're the ones that I can think of. And again, I would toss a question back to the members and ask them, do you think Kenya follows all of those? Are there some things that we skip over? Something like that, noise pollution laws or tax exemption. Yeah, are those things that are currently being enforced in Kenya?
Well, thank you. So another somebody, we are comparing the secular state versus the religious state in terms of the lawmaking. And what is the difference? How do the religious make the law, and how do the secular state make the law? They focus on what? And what is the effect of those focusing? Murioki?
Thanks. Maybe I can answer Dorcas. In Kenya, noise pollution is not controlled, because like even where I live, there's a church there. I think it's a Seventh-day Adventist. I'm not sure. They make a lot of noise. At times they make their preaching, and you can hear them from a distance. So in Kenya, noise pollution is not working for churches. They should make soundproof churches. Even like when we went to Gong Forest for a hangout, there are people there who are praying. Praying should be kept just only in churches, and they should be soundproof. Thanks.
Okay, fine, thank you. So we can go to another question. Do you think Kenya is really free from religion during the lawmaking. Example, do you think lawmaker, they sometimes uses religious dogma and tradition belief while making the law of Kenya? Do they refer to religious dogma or to their traditional beliefs while making the law, or they make the law purely from the secularism? So when we observe the parliament, do members of parliament make the law from the reason, or they meet with their beliefs? David?
Thank you, Stano. You see, in Kenya, or let us say in Saudi Arabia, where the population is on a certain persuasion, the members of parliament, the statistical odds or the numbers will be leaning towards a certain persuasion. And when the lawmaking comes to that, unless they are very, very fair people, they will be leaning on their persuasion, on their religion of persuasion. They will be saying, oh, I believe this, or God would want me to do this. They will abrogate themselves these powers of what their God wants to do. And they will forget that they are supposed to be secular. I am sorry to say that, yeah, because of the numbers. Even if that member of parliament is Maraga, he will just be an SD. I'm sorry, he will still be an SD. He will probably be leaning towards his persuasion of SDA or whatever that religion, Mormon or whatever that religion is. So that is a problem, in that when somebody is so immersed in their religion, when they are making laws in parliament, they might not have examined their own biases, their own the way they are biased towards their cognitive biases. If they've never questioned their cognitive biases or come into face-to-face with them, that secularity in lawmaking will be in trouble, whether in Saudi Arabia or in 80% Christian Kenya. That is the problem that one might face, until or unless we reach a position or a time where many members of parliament are cloak atheists who are smart enough to have come into contact with their own biases and decide that when it comes to this law, I am not a Christian, I'm just a lawmaker. Something like that. I don't know when that will come, but hopefully it is in our future. Thank you.
Yeah, that is great. So I think sometimes the religious can cause us not to make a wise decision or a logical, or to be logical, because of the belief that is in our heads. So based on the majority, if majority are religious, we can expect somehow to the law to shift to some element of religious. Let's hear from Dorcas.
Okay, I think where religion rears its ugly head is in terms of laws that touch on sexuality or sex in general. I think religion seems to be obsessed with curtailing sexual freedoms. And sometimes we see that echoed in the laws that are passed. For instance, when gay people wanted to have the right to associate in Kenya, that was curtailed partly, but then we saw they took the matter to court, and our judiciary ruled in their favor. I think, by the way, our judiciary is very bold, and they are also slightly objective. I think they try to be objective. It's our legislators that are partisan, because it pays to be partisan. When you're a politician and you go in the direction of the majority, that works in your favor. Yeah, politics is very biased, but the judiciary tends to be more neutral when it comes to that. We also saw it with us registering non-religious bodies like AIK, Atheists in Kenya Society. There was that bias against the faith. Back to sexuality, another law that I think has been interfered with because of our leaders' religious beliefs is comprehensive sex education. In fact, the clergy were at the forefront of opposing comprehensive sex education. We tend to think that young people will just bury their heads in the sand and they will abstain. We think that abstinence only is the method to prevent teenage pregnancies or sexually transmitted diseases amongst young people. And some of the laws tend to reflect that, but it's not the case. It hasn't worked. We have very high teenage pregnancy rates in some counties in our country, and all the counties are religious. All of them are religious, but we still have high pregnancy rates, and this is because our leaders have refused to pass comprehensive sex education laws because of their faith. So yeah, those are some examples I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, that is great. Let's hear from Guzman.
Hello, everyone. I'm Guzman, and I would like to talk the in practice of what you have talked about, the religion and the lawmaking process. You can see it is very crucial because basically in the Constitution, it says that there is no state religion in the first place. But when you come now in practice, we start with the moral laws, which are the personal. Each and every person has their morals. Like, let's say the morals regarding abortion, same-sex marriage, alcohol regulation. You see, mostly they are guided by the Christian or Islamic moral views, but not secular reasoning. And when we come to the things like the national prayer and all the public prayers, you see in most functions where people meet in Kenya, mostly from schools, government occasions, and everything, they'll start with a prayer, and even in parliament, they'll start with a prayer and end in prayers, which basically shows that there's a religious presence in state affairs. And there's also touching about the National Prayer Day. It is meant to unite, but it reflects the religion's role in everybody within the nation and the public life. And then you can see in the religious leaders' influence. You see, when it comes to matters with, let's say, when there are demonstrations or some acts going on in the country, you will find out that, or you will see that leaders come out to either condemn or congratulate on what is going on. So, and then in some cases, the government will react depending on the situation, which shows that the religion has some influence within the lawmaking procedure, because if they are able to intervene in within a given situation, it shows that they have some role in it. And then now it comes a problem when you find that religious beliefs are used to make or block laws or undermine individual rights and minority freedoms, which is common in most places. And then when you come to things like the reproductive health, the sex education, and the things like LGBTQ rights, they often turn to religious rather than constitutional. You see, mostly the LGBTQ, they usually turn to religious, not the constitutional way. So what I can say in general is that in Kenya, it is we are constitutionally secular, but religion has a strong influence in the lawmaking process and political decisions. That will be all. Thank you.
Yeah, very great. So do we have another person to add on that? Okay, Morioki.
Yeah, thanks. Tano, even us not being registered is a huge problem, because up to now we are still not registered. But I'm sure if we're religious, it would have been easier. Thanks.
I think that is our next topic. Yeah, Eston.
Okay. What was the second question? I only had the first question. I wanted to answer both of them. Hello,
Do you think Kenya really is free from religion during the lawmaking?
Oh, okay.
The second now,
is it free? Okay. Yes, the second.
The second one is, do you think lawmaker they sometimes use religious or traditional belief while making the law?
Okay. And first of all, yes, I think partially these lawmakers they use religion or the Bible or the Quran, the holy books, to do this to make these laws. But then they first of all, before they make any law, they always first consider if this law is compatible with the Bible. Partially, not always, because the Bible, actually, if you are a staunch believer in Bible or Quran things, you of course you'll be against abortion. But there are some laws that have been there's this. Susan Kika, when she was still a woman rep of Nakuru, she put up a law that allowed abortion. That was to allow abortion. I don't know in what context, but the Kenyans themselves, they fought her and started to castigate her. They were and it was mostly those old people. Yeah. They really castigated her for making a law saying it. I don't know, it is against the word of God, bullshit and that. But the reason why I'm saying partially is because some laws, even if they are against the Bible, they just pass them. Like when there was this thing about allowing people who are LGBTQ to congregate. It was taken to court and they were and they were allowed. Yes, because even when you are a believer, of course, you will be against anything about LGBTQ. But if they are allowing people who are LGBTQ to congregate, that means they are free to intermingle with they're free to express themselves. And so what I'm saying is that yes, they still use the holy books, but not always, partially, because they have to hold. Sometimes they have to hold back, because something might be okay in Christianity but is not okay in Islam. And you know, our members of parliament, around like about 20% of them are Muslim. So even if the majority are Christians, but a good number, not a big number, but a good number are Muslim. So if you bring out a law that that favors Christianity and not Islam, or favors Islam but and not Christianity, of course there'll be wrangles, and maybe that in that time maybe critical thinking should prevail. Our brothers here in Somali who had passed no marriage before 18 years, but they were 1940 because their Quran says. But if that, I don't know, that law of allowing people to marry below 18 years is introduced in Kenya. Yes, the Quran can allow it, but here in Kenya, we are majority are Christian, so that one it won't even see the next day. So what I'm saying is they use, of course, they still use these holy books, but partially, not always. And secondly, of course, Kenya, we are not yet free from this menace of religion, but at least we are better off than we were 10 years ago. We are better off. It's a journey, but we are still not yet free.
Yeah, that is great. On that, what you have touched about the religious, some may make the law according to this religion, which will oppose the other religion. So, and that is why they must be careful. I have a question about how the law are meant to favor some religion, and I'm focusing with the Islamic. I don't know why there is a specific law for Islam, and now the rest of the law is for the other Kenyans. But for Islamic, they have a specific law and a specific court, Qadi court. I don't know why there is that different. Do you think it is fair in our country, which is secular, to have a different law to govern the different people? Because it seems we have two different kind of the law to govern a certain religion and the law to govern the rest. So, Eston?
To me, it really does not make sense, because having I don't know a court that only handles, I don't know, things about Islam. What about this? If this case is between a Christian and a Muslim, now what happens in this situation? I wonder what will happen in this situation. Maybe that's why Muslims they usually just marry within themselves, and if they are to marry someone of another religion, they have to convert to Islam. But for me, it does not make sense, because the law should only be one. There should not be two laws in one country. It should be one.
Yeah, that is great. But I think in that case, there is some law that will be enabled to judge the two different groups or two different people. For example, Christian versus Muslim, they have a specific criteria. Although, do you think it's fair to have those different type of law to govern the different people, and yet they are from the same country? Yeah, Dorcas?
Absolutely not. I don't think it is fair. In secularism, the law is supposed to be blind to your beliefs. It's supposed to treat everybody equally. In fact, one of the advantages of secularism is that it promotes equality regardless of your race, your ethnicity, your income status, and your religion. Everybody is supposed to be treated equally. But if we allow Qadi courts, we allow Muslim laws, there's a name, Sharia laws in our country, it means that there are certain people that might have to face severe punishments for certain things or unfair laws for certain actions. For instance, I know in Sharia, it is haram, it is forbidden for you to seek interest when you loan somebody money, yet other Kenyans are okay with it. Then wife battery is wrong in the Kenyan constitution, but in Sharia, the Quran permits it. It is one of the recommendations that Prophet Muhammad gives when a woman does not obey her husband. You see, so Sharia is perpetuating violence against women, and we are allowing it because of pluralism. Okay, I think if everybody followed the constitution, then that would not be the case. There are also problems when it comes to child marriage because the Quran permits it. There's no issue. It says as long as a girl has started menstruating, then you're good to go. You can marry her. And that is abhorrent. It should be clamped down immediately. So that is an issue. We also have problems with giving testimony, eyewitness testimony. The testimony of a woman is half that of a man. So it is not gender neutral, it is very biased. I think those are problems that we would just have avoided if we had one law and one law alone. Thank you.
Yeah, that is good. Let's hear from Morioki.
Thank you. Stanley, can I ask El Maestro a question?
Yeah, and go ahead.
Yeah, El Maestro, you're saying we're better off. How are you better off? Thanks.
Okay, Muriuki. What I'm saying is that we are better off than we were 10 years ago, because 10 years ago, things to do with the LGBTQ in law, they would be almost like unheard of, or someone who is okay. I know our society has not been registered, but at least the one of Mumia AIK has been registered. But 10-15 years ago, it would be an abomination in this country. I don't know, you are an atheist. I don't know, you have an atheist society. It would be an abomination totally. But right now we are better off, even though ours has not been registered yet. But I think we are better off than we are. it is, as I said, it is a journey. You don't just make a change in all of a sudden, because even the I think the upcoming this generation or the coming generation, they are more secular than, you know, these who are in parliament here, who are most of them are staunch believers. So we are better off.
Okay, if you say so. If you say so.
Okay, fine. The next question is the effect of National Prayer Day. And also in this case, we can also include what the Guzman have said about in parliament or in any other government meeting or government official meeting, they have prayer. They start with the prayer and sometimes end with the prayer. Even in the cabinet meeting, we find even sometimes president is the one praying. Sometimes last time I see is the Kidiki, the president. So what can we say about those meetings, the government meeting, which are including the religious things before they start their meeting, or holding the national prayer day using the taxpayer money? And also in that case, what is your intake about the intention of Ruto to build the church in the state house and not mosque or any other religion? Yeah, Deve?
Yes. You see, it is only okay. So let me start with the church in State House. Now at State House, we have got a Christian. Next time we vote, say we vote a Hindu or we vote a Muslim. What do we get? Next to the church or somewhere else, the state builds a mosque. Because just to be fair, if you have a Christian church there, why not have a mosque? Or maybe if the religions can agree, and they never do agree, maybe that house of prayer can be dual. We know how it goes. They will not agree. They will say, you give them a church, you give us a mosque. You know, that would be a problem. The other one, and the question is that the best way to use resources? To use the land to start with? Kenya has got a lot of strain on availability of land. What is the pressure to have this church in what is the pressure? But anyway, now let me go to, let us say, this prayer breakfast. What exactly does it do for the country? We pray for what? When we pray, do we get it? Is that how we do business? That we do business by prayer? So if that's how we do business, why don't we just pray for the dams to be built, to come around? That is how business is to be done. Then let us just trickle down, because if we keep on insist on having a prayer breakfast, it will trickle down. Why wouldn't a teacher tell their students to start the first class with a prayer, and then the next teacher that comes to geography, which is the next class, they also do a prayer, and then the whole school, everybody starting classes with a prayer. What is that telling the students? That, hey, if I want to pass my exam, we just pray and I'll pass my exam. There's no pressure. That's where things come from. They come from God. They come from praying. They don't come from me working hard. I've got a very serious problem with prayer breakfast. It does nothing. It is just somewhere for people to go and release their air from both ends. for the ends of the body. There is nothing that it does for anybody. We do not have any proof that these prayer breakfasts have produced whatever, and they will not say this time we are praying for ABCD so that we see if we got our prayers answered from last year. It is so just it is so blood. There is no clear, it's not clear, there's no clear vision as to what they are praying for, so that if it is not answered, nobody's going to complain. We will have another prayer breakfast. It is just a feel good. It is just a place just to feel good that we have prayed. Now we are good to go. Yeah, for me, no. All those things, they should not be there. We should just be a country that operates as a secular country. You want to do prayer? Go to your church, a church that has not been built by the state, a church that the community or that church community paid for themselves. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That is a great insight. Let's hear from Soita.
Okay. Today my screen is misbehaving. Ay, 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 ay. Let me just turn on my mic, but not my video, because I don't know what it's going to do. Right. Building a church in State House and the national prayer breakfast. Let me start with the latter before I go to building a church in State House. I echo most of Deve's sentiments. I think it is useless. It promotes passivity because there's no action, just prayer. It's often used as a substitute for not working. This is my great issue with prayer in general, and now state-sanctioned prayer. The work of government is to work, is to pass laws, is to implement projects, is to do things that build our economy. Its work is not to pray. So prayer is something that promotes inaction for government. Additionally, it is used as a performative tool to sanitize politicians and make them look holier than thou. It's used as a mask to cover graft. All that corruption that has been going on, as long as, they do their national prayer breakfast, they seem pious, they sing all the hymns in church, then we quickly sweep their misdeeds under the carpet. It's performative. It's used to disguise their evil acts. So let's not be fooled by it, dear Kenyans. Another problem with the national prayer breakfast is that it is expensive. It uses millions. Imagine just one stupid day of prayer uses millions of shillings on it, millions that would have been used for other more useful projects. And again, what Ndeve said, there's nothing to show for those prayers. Ever since 1987, before many of us were born, they have been praying nationally in State House, or at least presided over by the president, but we see nothing for it. So I think it's time to kick that habit out the door. Now, when it comes to building a church in State House, most of my objections to the national prayer breakfast apply to building a church in State House. The fact that it is wasteful, it could be directed, that money could be directed to other more useful projects. Kenya has so many problems, so many. Some of our kids are studying under trees. That's how dilapidated our education system is. And here we are taking money, public resources, using public resources to build a church, which does nothing for our economy. Now, President Ruto claimed that he was going to use his own money after the backlash. You know, me, I think he was not being sincere there. I think that was reactionary. It was just an excuse. I think he was going to use public resources to build that church, but then later he backpedaled and claimed that he was going to use his own money. Even so, that money as an office could have been better directed to other services. And Ruto should not act as an individual. He needs to remember that he's a president. The messages he's sending have nationwide implications. So he can't just act on a whim or appease to his own personal prejudices or personal beliefs. That's one aspect. Another thing is, I think it is unfair to all the other denominations that will not get a church and to all the other religions that will not have a place of worship. He's just building a church. What about a mosque? What about a temple for the Hindus? What about a shrine for the African spiritualists? And what about a meeting hall for atheists? You see, he's being unfair. We live in a diverse society, and he's only catering to one group, which happens to be his group. No, he's not supposed to act that way. It's unfair, it's wasteful, and most importantly, it is unconstitutional, since the Constitution says that he is supposed, the state is not supposed to sponsor any religion. Now, some people will say, wait, but there was already a church in State House. It's just that it was a Mabati church. Yes, but that church was built before we passed the 2007 Constitution. So, wacha ikae tu hivyo. It was already damage done. Yeah. And then other people will say, but what about the Christians in State House? Where do they worship from? Oh, there are so many churches around State House. I walk on State House Road many times when I'm going to Arboretum Park, and I see numerous churches, high-end churches, low-end churches. For whatever budget or whatever social class you belong, you can find a church out there. You don't have to bring religion into government by building a church there. Overall, bottom line, it is performative. It is just a tool the president is using to appeal to his religious demagogues, and I do not endorse it at all. Thank you.
Yeah, that is great. So, and we can also on the same thing, because we can address about the schools using the prayers, for example, the days of parade, like Monday and Friday. The students normally are trained to worship or to praise, then prayer before they hear the speech or before they raise the flag. So what is your intake about the school, how they also usher in the religions or the religious practices in schools, both the public and the private? And how do you feel about the private school that is sponsored by the religious, claiming that they are religious sponsors, so the student must adhere to the rules there? Let's hear the opinion from someone about that. How can you talk say about the school involving religious things or religious ceremonies? And how can you say about some school that may give some guideline? You must follow this for you to be admitted in that school, or for you to continue studying in that school. And the guideline that you are giving is religious guideline. Yeah, Morioki?
Okay, thanks. In fact, I went to a Catholic primary school where it was like that, and there were Hindus and all that. But now, during parade, it was done in a Christian way. But now, at least now in the classrooms, it was just you choose. But the Indians just used to ignore, and it was not a big deal because we sing Christian songs. They're there with us. Then it ends. So life just went on the way it went on. It was no big deal. So
okay, it's not a big deal.
yeah, because they just did. They survived. The Indians survived. The Hindus, they survived with it. Yeah.
But do you know you somehow you are making a brain damage by feeding kids?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Although at that time I was a Christian, so I couldn't see anything wrong because at that time I was a Catholic. So for me, it was a good. Now, now it's not. When I look back, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Today,
It's
if
not
you
good.
are being forced to do something,
yeah,
and about the religious will not affect you much because you have already set up your mind. But for a kid, is still innocent, and the brain is still young, so he can take everything. So let's hear from David.
Thank you. I feel that other than a parade where the kids sing the national anthem and raise the flag, I think that should be it. The rest, it should be soccer or other things, not necessarily follow. Even in those religious, those sponsored schools, there shouldn't be too much time wasted on religion. But then again, if it's a private school, I don't know where the law of the land stands in protecting those innocent young kids from teachers. I'm telling you, there are rabid teachers out there who want to beat their religion into kids. Now, however, like Muriuki, I went to a school run by the nuns, but this was in secondary school. And my primary school was run by the Baptists, which is African Inland Church. Ukambani, they like the AIC, but they're Baptists actually. And they were not really deep into religion. In the morning, we might sing a song and read a Bible verse. And then on Thursdays, there was an hour or two dedicated to devotion. The pastor of the church came in and told us stories about David and Goliath and all those stories. He was a good story narrator, so we actually liked those stories. But nobody was being asked to join the church. When it came to, for example, that the Catholic kids have to go to the church. The Catholic church was a little distance for, say, Ash Wednesday. The teacher, we were permitted. We were permitted to go. The headmaster would say, "The Catholics, kwendeni mukapakwe nini, mukapakwe mvi." Just of course he was like he was mocking the Catholics, which we knew, but nobody really bothered. But that was a primary school. Then and everybody was in that primary school, the Catholics and the Protestants. Then I went to secondary school, and also everybody was there. It was a school run by the nuns, girls, and the Muslims were there. We didn't have Hindus, and we had the Protestants, and actually, everybody was allowed, the Protestants were allowed on Sundays to invite a priest, a preacher. And the preachers usually, you know, they came, the brothers, they came and they had the service in one of the schools. And the Catholics, of course, went to mass. The church was nearby, because there was a convent there, of course. Where there is a convent, there is a church and there is the priest and whatever. So anyway, and it was, I think, on my view, those nuns ran a really good system. Everybody was allowed. You are not going to be forced to go to mass. It was just the Catholics, the Catholic girls who were being haunted to go to mass. The Muslims, in fact, the Muslim girls, during Ramadan, their meals were saved for them. And then they could go and, you know, gorge themselves afterwards. The meals were kept for them. And they were allowed to do their own things. And that I think, other than at that level, and we didn't have any prayers before class. We raised the flag, and that was that. Class was, we went to class, and you started your education. We did not pray or anything in the evening. We didn't even have any prayers before you go to bed. In the morning, the Catholic girls, those who could go, they could go to mass. I was not one of those who would wake up from the blanket of Kodemboni and go to mass. I would rather be in my blanket when it is so cold. But anyway, so no, I think that kids should be protected from the zealous religious zealots in their schools. I thank you.
Yeah, that is great. So I think you had a good school that even the head was not part of them. Maybe he was part of them, could force you to attend those masses, but was against, even somehow mock them. So
yes,
like me,
yes,
yeah. But for me, the school that I was, we were being forced to go for maths. I remember there was a time priest wanted to punish me for refusing to go, but I was courageous enough, so she finally feared me when I put some logic, trying to argue why I believe why I'm a Protestant and I cannot go against what I believe. So, and on that, about the private school, yeah.
Oh, Stano, I was just going to finish by saying about the uniform. I saw somewhere in a school that they wanted the Muslims to wear some kind of, I don't know, not to wear uniform. I draw the line right there, because it is like saying that I want to eat, because I'm a Mkamba, I should eat modokoi while the school provides whatever it provides. I think when it comes to uniform, I draw the line right there. You're just a bunch of girls. Go wear the uniform that the other girls are wearing, because you are not. It's not a marketplace that you just wear what you want. I draw the line right there. I might be wrong, but I draw the line there. Okay, thank you. I'm done.
Yeah, okay, that is fine. So, and that can also involve about the hijab, because if it's about the school uniform, you find some students, they don't cover their hair, but other, because of the religious thing, they cover their hair. So I don't know about that uniform, how you can be able to balance those different groups or people from different religions, because some, they must wear certain thing, other not. So how we can be able to balance them. So, but on that, as long as you take over, I also want us to discuss about the private school, how they regulate or how they prevent or they impose some rules that does not favor some students. And can those private schools be taken like a private company? Because for a private company, if they discriminate an employee or a customer, they can be sued in the court because they are doing an offense. Can it be applied in the private school that try to discriminate in terms of religious or races or whatever, even if it's a private? Let's see. So let's hear from Dorcas.
Wow, Dorcas might be having some network problems.
Or is the mic problem? Dorcas. Let's hear from someone else. But for me, my opinion is the schools should not discriminate the student or to impose the rule to favor a certain religion. They should put a law that favor the secularism because our country is secularism and they are within or under the law or under the Constitution of Kenya. So they should be strictly for the Constitution of Kenya. Whatever they are doing, they should be asked whether it is in alignment with the Constitution of Kenya. So trying to force students to do this and this according to the whatever that school or the sponsor of that school believe, that I think is against the Constitution and should be stopped, or such schools should be sued in the court for doing those things if the evidence is found. The same case to the private company. Even if you are learning for a profit, there is something that you cannot do that is totally against the Constitution of Kenya as long as you are still in Kenya. So Dorcas, are you ready?
So,
we can also
yeah. Oops. So can a private company say that if you are going to buy in our shop, you must dress a certain way to come into our shop because our shop, oh no, I don't know, or whatever our institution is run, is like this. So we require when you come, you wear headscarf. Is that legal?
So maybe we can investigate about that, whether there is companies that may restrict, yeah, in terms of races or in terms of the religious. But I think it's against the rule. Yeah, Dorcas, continue.
Oh, I'm so sorry, people. My microphone, it just refused to cooperate. So next time, in case I raise my hand and I can't speak, kindly, Mr. Admin, unmute me because, yeah, my phone, I need to fix it. Anyway.
I was fearing to unmute you. Maybe you had some discussion with the other or neighbor or some issue, so and we might hear unnecessary things.
No, I've given you permission, at least for the rest of the meeting. I know we have very few minutes left. On that note, I'm wondering, are we going to comment about how politicians use the church for campaigns? Or can I say something about it?
Yes, it's fine. You can include everything there because we are almost finalizing.
Okay. So before I get to that, let me comment a little bit about public schools versus private schools and how they discriminate against other individuals based
And
on religion.
sometimes your voice is low.
Oh, okay. What about now? Is this better?
Yeah, excellent.
Okay. Now, I think we need to know that there's a distinction between a public school and a private school when we are talking about secularism. Because as we defined secularism, we said that secularism is maintaining a neutral, is when government maintains a neutral stance towards religion. It does not promote, neither does it suppress religion. So a public school can be considered to be government run. Yeah, it is government run or government owned. So a public school should have stricter enforcement of secular rules, meaning that those things of having a prayer in assembly, of having religious activities for all the students is going off track for public schools. However, for private schools, I think now there it starts to become murky because the government is not directly involved, it's not owned by the government, but we can still appeal to our moral senses in that it is discriminating against the people who don't belong to that faith. So if you go to a Catholic school and they have mass every day, or they conduct prayers in a Catholic manner, they engage in Catholic activities, then members of the other denominations are left out and members of other religions are left out. They are discriminated against. So those schools are not treating everybody fairly. But you see, with religion, it sometimes doesn't care about fairness. It just focuses on advancing its own goals. So that's a problem right there. But I'm not very sure that it falls under secularism. Now, this one of dressing, I would like to ask the members a question. France ruled recently that you cannot wear a hijab in public. You cannot wear a hijab, not I think it's called the niqab, the one that covers everything, including the eyes. Now, that one, of course, I totally understand because I think we need to see people's identities for the sake of security. But now this other one of banning the hijab, do you think that the French government is overstepping? Because as we said, the government is not supposed to suppress, but neither is it supposed to promote any religion in secularism. So do you think the French government is suppressing the rights of Muslim women who want to wear the hijab, but they're being forced not to wear the hijab in public? That's my question to the members. Now, on this last point, I wanted to make about how politicians abuse the unholy alliance that they have with the church. That one is very evident with our president today. He used to donate money to churches. He still does. He donates money to churches, and in return, the churches give him a platform. You remember that time there was a controversy with the Kasarani church. SCG, they were given 1 million. Then there was another one, Lavington United Church, where they were supposed to receive President Ruto's wife, Rachel Ruto. She was supposed to go there and do a fundraiser. But then public outcry, the Gen Zs especially, told them that that is not going to happen. They're going to occupy that church. And so the church had to relent. So our politicians take advantage of the loose application of secularism. They form partnerships with churches and they give them money, and in return, those churches endorse the politicians, or they give them platforms to campaign, and they also, in return, don't punish the churches. For instance, when the churches commit noise pollution, there's nothing that is done to them. You remember Honorable, I don't even know why I'm calling him Honorable, but Sakaja, Governor Sakaja, once said that he's going to close the bars that are in residential areas making noise for people, but he's not going to close the churches because yeye ni mtu wa kanisa. You see, so these churches are exempt from laws, from enforcement of laws, because of that unholy alliance. Scratch my back, I scratch yours. Even how our president was elected, he was elected on the basis of religious partisanship. He was portrayed as a very religious man, for a Christian man, while what's his name? The late former Prime Minister Raila was perceived as a plural person because he went to campaign among Muslims, and the Muslims, he told the Muslims that this country is not just for Christians, it's for you all, even you Muslims, you are supposed to be included. And now the Christians got mad at it, especially among the Kikuyu. Kwanza, those older women, they perceived Raila to be an enemy of Christianity, and he was even portrayed by the opposing camp as somebody who is an animist, so to speak. I feel like that cost Raila the Central Kenya vote tremendously, and that is how President Ruto was elected. So politicians are doing this. They are very partisan. They are taking advantage of that unholy alliance or the loose application of secularism to have their way, and the church itself is also benefiting by getting money from these people. This should not be happening. Thank you.
Yeah, that is great. So, and you have touched about the private schools. You refer about the moral issues, but do you think it's against the Constitution, or do you think there is a ground to sue a certain school for discriminating, even if it's a private, or there is no that chance? Dorcas.
Well, I think somebody can take it up because it is covered in the Constitution, but wait. Private, maybe not, imagine, because as I said in Article 8, it says the state shall not promote any religion. We shall not have a state religion, but private schools are not the state. They are not. So I think it will be a challenge to sue them.
So that means the same case may apply to the business, to the companies, like a hospital and the other companies are?
No, okay, to discriminate, you see, it depends on what you mean by discrimination. How I understood it in this context was things like prayer. If you are praying and you're just doing a Christian prayer, you're not doing a Muslim prayer, you're not doing a Hindu prayer, and there are people from that faith in that school, that was what I was understanding it as. But if it's discrimination in a business, for instance, somebody asks you, are you a Christian? You tell them, no, I'm an atheist, and you are applying for a job, and they deny you that job. They tell you particularly that we have not chosen you for this job because you are an atheist. That is discrimination, and you can definitely sue them. But now the other one,
yeah, the same in that scenario, Dorcas, what if it's a private and the owner is the one that have given that directive?
It does not matter whether it is private, whether it is a public institution, all of them, you can sue them for denying you opportunities because of your faith. That one, it is very well within the law, and many people have won lawsuits because of it. Lakini hii ingine ya prayer na nini nini hapo, that's where I feel it's lacking.
So what about the private school? You are denied you are not admitted there because of the religious affiliation.
Yeah, that is definitely illegal. I think El Maestro can speak on that when he's talking about applying for a job in maybe a Muslim school. As a former Christian and now as an atheist, I think El Maestro can speak on that. But it is illegal, and you can definitely sue them if they deny you that opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, fine. Let's hear from Morioki.
Thanks. Just to answer Dorcas, this hijab thing in France, that's unfair. Let them be. That's, to me, that's very unfair to the Muslims. They should be allowed to be what they're meant to be. Thanks. As long as maybe the complete covering of the face because of security. But this other hijab where you can see the face, that should be allowed. So thanks. That's unfair.
Yeah, that is good. Even for me, it's not good to embody that hijab they should wear. The only thing I feel is not good is to cover everything. You just left your eye because you can be a criminal. So even in Kenya, I don't think that is necessary. The Muslim who are covering their face, even if it's religious, for the security reason, I think something should be done on that. Although that is my opinion. So let's hear from Eston.
Okay, yes. First of all, begin with this thing about private applying for work in a private school that is of Muslims. I've never done that before, so I don't know. I don't know what happens in those schools. I don't know. But I'm 100% sure, not 100 or maybe 99% sure that you have to be okay. Even if you apply and then you say, I don't know, you are a Christian, they'll just tell you you are not qualified. But they'll tell you that we have someone else who when you came to the interview, someone else who is more qualified than who got that position, but you might be the most qualified, but the real reason you are denied that opportunity is because you are not a Muslim. So they will deny you a chance, but not directly. They'll deny you a chance indirectly. And it's not only even in this a Muslim school. There are even some Christian schools, like there are some, I don't know, SAS-K or what, school that is run by SAS-K or some of these churches. At least the schools that are run by Catholic, at least them they are more flexible. Even there are even schools that are Catholic schools, but there are Muslims who school there, and there are Muslims who are teaching there. But there are some churches, some schools that are run by some not so much known churches that you have actually to be a member of that church to be a teacher there. So it is not only on the Muslim side; it's even for the Christian. Some schools that way. Going to this issue of hijab, I didn't even know if there's such a law in France. I thought it's only not wearing hijab in when you visit maybe a government offices or public offices. You mean it is in public? I didn't know that. Actually, that one it is unfair, like the way Morokia said. But with what has been occurring in France, I can understand them. This is just a way of French people fighting back or discouraging Islamic immigrants from going to France, because of the way they have gone to France, and it's like they want to continue bearing like they Muslims, they go to any place and they start bearing children there and bearing, and it's like the one now Sharia law. Maybe France is trying to discourage more immigrants from going to France because maybe there are laws that do not favor uh, uh, their Islamic beliefs and culture. It is unfair, but I can understand why France are doing that, because it is a way of fighting back. It's not a way of discriminating the Islam, but it is a way of fighting back or preserving the culture of France. Yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let's hear from Debe.
Yes, let me kind of echo what El Maestro has said on the hijab and this French law. The thing that's happening in France and a few other European countries is that women who do not wear hijab or the burqa, who are not covered, they seem to be prey. And the excuse is, well, they were not covered. I was tempted because they were not covered. So now the French, in a typical French way, they said, we're not going to make our women cover to be safe. Guess what we are going to say? We are going to open all the women to be free so that they can tempt every man, every Muhammad and Ahmed and Ali there. You're going to be tempted not just by our French women who just wear their normal children, but their normal clothes, but your women too. So let us see how you like that. I think it was a difficult decision. I shouldn't say that it was a difficult decision, but I think it was a decision that was arrived at because of the harassment of the woman, the girl child, whether woman, old woman, young little children. Just so long as you are not covered, you are just you are a target for harassment, and that's just not acceptable, because now what do you do with these people? You can't tell them, okay, here is the door, go out. No, they are they are French, so what do? You cover up. Let's see how you like that. And yeah, and so it's definitely a way of fighting back, pushing back on some very bad behavior that is going on, and it's going on all over Europe. It's not England, it's not Ireland, it's not France. And the French women, or rather European women, have been freer for a longer time than, say, the African woman. So now you are not going to tell the European woman, oh, you cover up for your own safety. Oh, this is 2025, right? Thank you.
That is good. So, yeah, even to be, I see it's unfair for them to force them to go against their will, which is not a security issue. So our last thing is about the registration. And I think this is somehow like the way we have discussed about the law amendment or the law making. The leaders, they somehow be biased when they are making the rules. So the same case, the registration of the society, like registration of atheist society, other non-Christian groups. These people, the leaders there or officials there may be biased, and because they cannot discriminate direct, or they cannot tell you direct, they try to delay the process, because to them, they don't like that thing to go through, but because it's protected by the constitution or by the law, they try just to delay it. So what is your intake about the registration of the non-religious organization in Kenya? Just the way we have been passing hand time while trying to register our society, and the way AIK of Mumia struggle before get registered, and also after that they get registered, they went to the court for them to be registered again. So what is your intake about this process in Kenya of registering non-religious organization? Yeah, Morioki?
Thanks. At times I wonder if we give them money, like $1 million, I wonder if that would make it speedier. If you had our group had a lot of money, I wonder if you give them money, they would make it it would be a quicker registration. I'm just wondering, is it because we lack money or what? So thanks.
No, I think I don't think because they don't see whether we are able or we are unable financially. So for me, I think it's for religious perspective or their mentality. So let's hear from Dorcas.
Okay. Now, I think this is a symptom of religious intolerance or non-religious intolerance for that matter, because we are talking about non-religious people, and a failure to abide by the Constitution. Because, as I cited, Article 8 of the Constitution says that there shall not be a state religion, and Article 32, sub-Article 4, states that the state shall not force any belief upon an individual. We have freedom of expression. This means that atheists, Muslims, Hindus, whoever, have a right of association. And as ex-pastor said, the problem usually is that most of these registrars don't outrightly discriminate. They stall, they slow the process, and in the end, you get frustrated and give up. In our case, we have not given up yet. In fact, the game plan for us is that we will eventually now take this to court. We need to hire a lawyer and take this matter to court. As Morioki said, money talks, but not in that way, because that would be a bribe, Morioki. That would be corrupt. No, we can follow the law and hire a lawyer so that we can get registered, because I honestly think they're stalling. They're deliberately frustrating us. It's been close to 2 years. I remember going there, was it last year, early last year? I went there and I asked them, what is the status of our registration? And they said, you are in the last phase, which is a review of the officials' records, police records, because you're supposed to have a clean record. You shouldn't be criminals or anything of the sort. And of course, all the officials were okay. We were clean, but they claimed, the registrar or the person at the registrar's office told me that it is out of their hands. Once it goes to NIS, NIS is a separate body from us and we can't rush them. That's what she said. And they can use that as an excuse. So I asked her, okay, how long should I wait? She said, I can't tell. It can be years before you get your certificate of registration. Oh my gosh. Can you believe it? Yeah. And they're not giving us a solid reason for the delay. So there's that issue. And we really need to work on getting a lawyer to push this case forward and expedite our registration. Then we saw that with AIK when they got registered in 2016 and then their registration was revoked in 2018 after religious people complained about AIK. And this particular gentleman who put it forward was Ndichu. Ndichu claimed that the Constitution recognizes God because there's a way in the preamble it mentions, there's a phrase that references God. And so he was saying anybody who doesn't believe in God is unconstitutional, but that was an erroneous representation of the Constitution, according to the judge who presided over the matter. And they said that we focus on the articles, and Article 8 acknowledges that it is a secular nation, and Article 32 says that you cannot impose a belief on people. They have a right of association. So at least AIK set the pace for us. It set the precedent for us who are going to continue. Finally, on this issue, there are several other non-religious bodies that have tried to register. I think, is it Secular Kenya, the one by Semakula, and several others that have tried and gotten frustrated and they've given up. They got tired and they just gave up. Us guys will fight to the end. We have to get this paper, guys. We have to become official so that we can achieve even bigger things that we have for this society. So yeah, that is a big problem, and it is a symptom of the lack of enforcement of secularism in our country. Thank you.
Yeah. On that, what about the religious organization? Do they get registered? And what is the issue if not? Dorcas, you can proceed with that before we go to David.
I believe
Fine.
so.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I believe that religious organizations are getting registered, but the reason why I'm using the word believe, not I know, is because I haven't confirmed. But the thing is, the excuse they were giving us, the registrar was telling us that they have taken our names, the officials' names, to the NIS in order to investigate our criminal records. And that is the only obstacle between us and our registration certificate. That's what they said. They did not say that we have not registered you because we've been forbidden from registering any religious or non-religious organizations. They did not say that. They said it was because it is now in the hands of an external body. So I think, and I think over the past 2 years, surely there have been some churches that have been registered. I'm yet to verify, but surely there must be. Otherwise, they would have made noise. The churches are very influential. They wouldn't have just sat on it quietly. Apana, they would have fought for their rights. So I think they've been registered. These people are just discriminating against us. Thank you.
Okay. The reason for me to ask that question is because I find the new churches that are being formed, I normally see pastor trying to take cover of the existing churches. For example, you take cover of the Great Commission, you take cover of the Full Gospel, you take cover of the other churches like that of Nganga. So you are trying to get a cover to be under a certain bishop, maybe because they are ready to go for that process of registration or something else. I don't know. So that is why I asked that question. Let's hear from David.
Yes. I think this registration issue could be due to You know that percentage, the odds of finding a religious person handling your application are so high, whether that person be Muslim or be Christian. That is in Kenya or in Saudi Arabia. That possibility is so high that your chances of being registered become very low, in that it is subject to what they think. It is subjected to their religiosity, and they look at it and they say, who are atheists? Why do they want to be atheists? There is something wrong with them. See, right there. Then they look at a church one and they probably will not have a very big problem, no matter, even if, I bet you Mackenzie could register a church today, a church today before we could register our organization, because his is a church. See, so to me that's how I look at. I just look at the numbers that we have, and the possibility of our paper ending up in one of those people. That makes it difficult for us. Since there's nothing wrong with us, we've not done anything. We are not likely even to do anything. Even if we are registered, we are the least likely to have a shakahola situation. But look at us, you know? Maybe a little too reasonable. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, for us to get registered, when we get registered, maybe we will delay the impression from the young ones. They will not receive it. Maybe that is why they are trying to delay. Let's hear from Morioki.
Yeah, thanks. I want to ask Dorcas. Dorcas, K can't help us. K, she can't help us in this.
She was categorical that she is in a business and she's not a charity. She has to get paid. Yeah, she has to get paid.
Yeah, that is the question I asked her when we were at a museum. But it can be kind of a joke, so we cannot take it serious. But we need to look for money and also for a lawyer who can be able to present us with little changes.
Yeah, maybe she should name her figure so that we know how to compare it with a lawyer, with a lawyer's fee.
I think
If we know the numbers.
On that note, now Ruth K, I don't know why she doesn't want to represent us, but maybe you can look for another lawyer, but you know, maybe we can look for a lawyer that is also secular, not these lawyers that are yes, they are lawyers, but they are still Christians. You can look for them. Maybe by, you see, there's this university that is called what? This university that deals with law. Kenya, is it Kenya School of Law, that is in around Karen, that side. Maybe you can look for one that side, or someone who can connect us in from that side.
So in short, you are saying we look for a lawyer who will be able to present us with the person yet, because he also believes the way we believe, not a pretender. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we are We are past time because we are supposed to end at the 10:10. Now it's 10:21. So anyone with something to say as we finalize?
Okay, my final remarks about this, about registration of SAS-K. Yes, how I have said, and Dorcas, you said the last time you went, it was last year, to that office, or when was the last time you went?
Yes, I was sent. I remember the rest of us were busy, so I had time on my hands and I was on my own. I went and spoke to, I was given a name by Sir Adams,
Yeah.
to ask for. And when I did, she looked like a higher level employee. I don't know her
Yeah.
title, but I
Yeah.
spoke to her and she explained to me that our names have been forwarded to NIS, and so it's out of their hands. We have it can take 1 year, it can take 2 years, it can take as long as it takes. That's what she said. And then some other
Yeah.
gentleman who was checking on our list, our members list, because you're supposed to send in the members' names. He also echoed her sentiments. Yeah, that was last year, maybe early.
Maybe
last year.
we can go for one last time this year, and then we now go the law. What now the law, because this is discrimination of the highest order, where they only want to register charges, but not our society.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we can pay them one last visit before taking legal action.
Yeah, fine. So, Dorcas, you can now end the meeting and giving your final remarks.
On the comments, Nikki is saying, why don't we visit them with the petition?
I feel like Nikki, a petition is already antagonistic, like, and even the petition needs to be prepared legally. Yeah. So let's first start with the neutral route. Let's go back and ask them what's the status, because it might have been 2 years since we first attempted. Then once that is not possible, for the petition, it needs to be drafted in a legal manner. Otherwise, they won't even recognize it.
I think there was a letter we wrote to Ombudsman.
Yes. We had already sent a letter to the Ombudsman on it. Yeah. That route, it should be the last resort. Like what AIK did, they carried a camera and they broadcasted everything. They said, this registrar is trying to block our registration, blah, blah, blah. That should be the last resort after all the other routes. The diplomatic routes have been closed.
By day, maybe we can also publicize it. We can make this thing publicized, but I don't know if that will work.
Okay, let's continue this conversation on the group. Let's come with a way forward. Let's come up with a way forward on the group. But in the meantime, thank you everybody that participated. Thank you, El Maestro. Thank you, David. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, ex-pastor. Thank you, Bodoki. Thank you, Guzman, I believe, and any other person that chipped into the conversation. It was very eye-opening. Check out our announcements for the next turnout. It's supposed to be the first Sunday of the month. Let us meet physically, especially those new people. It would be fantastic to meet you all for the first time. I wish you guys a good night, a good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. See you next time.